The Raptors end their home schedule of the regular season with an overtime victory against the Miami Heat, 117-109, and it was a back-and-forth game, and it looked like in the second quarter things might have gotten away from the Raptors, but they are able to claw back into the game, and it ends up tied at 103 heading into the fourth, and then a big overtime quarter by the Raptors, a 14-6 fourth quarter, and they get the 8-point victory. Now, offensively, it wasn't the greatest game for the Raptors. They actually didn't have a quarter over 30 points scored. You haven't seen that too often. But in the first quarter, they were down 1. They were -6 in the second quarter. So they're -7 at the break, but at one point in that second, they were down 13. They were having some real issues offensively. They couldn't get the consistent stops. Now, they found a way to hold the Miami Heat to only 57 points, but the Raptors only scored 50, and things weren't really cooking early on. You go to the second half, the Raptors dig in defensively. Third and fourth quarter, they only give up 46 points. That's solid. You're going to win a lot of games when you hold teams under 50 a quarter, and the Raptors score 53 of their own. 53 of their own. You know, and then obviously it goes to overtime, and they get some big shots. And a big play in the overtime corner was a pass from, I don't know exactly who it was, but it was down low to Kawhi Leonard. He gets tangled up, and he kind of like pushes it or tips it or something into the corner to Danny Green, and he knocks down the big three in overtime. Amazing job there by Kawhi Leonard, and this team really just got the job done today. Like we've talked about over and over again, when certain guys have off nights, other guys step up. You know, you look at guys like, where are we here? You know, Kawhi Leonard, yeah, he shot 7 of 19 with 22 points. Not the greatest night for Kawhi Leonard. But with that being said, Danny Green sprinkles in 21. Siakam does his thing and gets a double-double of 23 and 10 on 8 of 10 shooting. 3 of 5 from 3, especially the big 3 in overtime. He was a plus 19, was Pascal Siakam. And Marc Gasol, 8 points, 10 boards, 7 assists, 2 of 4 shooting. Great job by Marc Gasol, plus 23 while Marc Gasol was on the floor. Keep that in mind, people. Kyle Lowry didn't shoot the ball very well. 1 of 8. You know, he 5 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. Not Kyle's greatest game. He had 3 steals in the game, but he was a plus 7 while he was on the floor. Fine by me. And the bench has been the real weird factor for the Raptors, and a lot of people screaming on Jeremy Lin and how he shouldn't be in the rotation for the playoffs. Well, I think people got their wish today. He doesn't play a game. He doesn't play a minute today. You know, and what we did instead is you saw a lot more of Norman Powell, which a lot of us have been talking about, and man, does Norman Powell not disappoint. In 21 minutes, he has 23 points, 3 boards, 7 of 7 shooting, 5 of 6 from the line, 4 of 4 from 3. He gets a steal. He was a plus 4 on the floor, and OG Anunoby and Serge Ibaka had tough nights. Offensively, Serge, yeah, 12 points, but he shot 6 of 14, and listen to this. And this is a number where I'm like, that's not very good. Ibaka was a -17. OG Anunoby was a -22. And OG didn't make a shot. He was 0 of 4 shooting. He was 0 of 2 from 3. He got a steal in the game, but they weren't that good. Now, I mean, I'm not going to say this is a big factor. Look, and I totally apologize, guys, for not saying these games meant anything. I didn't realize the whole Golden State thing was a factor. However, we do have to get to the finals to make it a factor. Now, can the Raptors do so? Absolutely. But now what the Raptors are doing, with these wins that they are getting, especially the overtime win today, they are forcing the Golden State Warriors to win out. The Raptors have 1 game left. They all have the same losses to the Golden State Warriors and the Raptors, right? We have 24 losses. They have 24 losses. However, we have the 2 extra wins because we played 2 more games. Now, if anybody's wondering what their schedule looks like in the last couple of games of the year, they have... Well, let me go down here and check this out. They have the Pelicans and Memphis on the road. Now, Memphis obviously has put a pretty good play as of late. Obviously, JV is done for them for a little while. Actually, done for the season, really. And the Pelicans aren't a great team. So if you're the Raptors, you think to yourself, okay, we win our next game, we're fine. And actually, who do they play today? I think they play today as well. Where are they? Golden State. They played the Clippers in Golden State. So, again, I don't really know what to expect, but in the end, if the Raptors win this last game against the Timberwolves, the Warriors can't catch us because we swept the season series 2-0. So, if you're a Raptor fan and you want to see that second seed, great. We're right there right now. You just got to win this last game to solidify it at least. And the Raptors are doing, and if Golden State wins one of their last, or lose one of their last 3 games of the season, it doesn't matter what happens with the Raptors on Tuesday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So there's your little update there. Once again, guys, I apologize for saying that game meant meaningless stuff for the Raptors in their last loss. It just, for me, I'm thinking Eastern Conference. I'm thinking Boston. I'm thinking Philly. I'm thinking Milwaukee. I'm not really looking towards Golden State as of yet, because that's a long way, and the Raptors have never gotten there. I know the expectations are up near that area, but we got to take it one series at a time. Now, like I said, the last game for the Toronto Raptors regular season is on Tuesday, April 9th, as they are in Minnesota taking on the Timberwolves in the last game of the year. It's an 8 o'clock tip-off there in Minnie. And if you're the Raptors, okay, the health has been good over the last couple games. It's great to see. Everyone's healthy. In this last game against Minnesota, if I'm the Raptors, okay, so hear me out. If I'm the Raptors and I see Golden State lose tonight, what do you do? Because if that's the case, you're not losing the second seed and you're not catching number 1. Do you rest a guy like Kyle Lowry? Do you rest a Danny Green? Do you rest some of these guys who have had nagging, banged-up injuries? What do you do if Golden State wins tonight? If they don't, and we go into Tuesday thinking to ourselves, well, the season ain't over yet, and we still want that seed, I say you play all your guys. That's just my thought. I don't know how your guys' feels are towards that. I understand you want to play the last game of the season, kind of get that mojo going and go into the playoffs feeling good. But for the Raptors, I think they've won 6 of the last 7 of their last 8, I think it was. They're feeling good right now. They're getting victories. And the crazy thing is, these teams that they're facing are desperate. You look at the Miami Heat, right? They're coming into the game today. They're 9th. They're 9th in the Eastern Conference. They have fallen out. They're now almost 2 games out of the playoffs. And as of right now, with Orlando winning their last 2 games and Detroit losing 3 straight, the Orlando Magic are tied with the Nets for 6th place. And right now, we'd play Orlando. It's a whole craziness how that's going to happen. It's basically 3 teams, I think it is, that's kind of battling all each other for those final spots. But if you're the Raptors, I think, depending on how many games played, these games left these teams have, it looks like Miami and Charlotte either aren't going to make the playoffs or we're not going to see them. So it looks like it might be Detroit, Orlando, and the Nets as the possible teams, because those 3 teams are separated by half a game. It's crazy. I don't know how many games these teams have left. Let me check Detroit here real quick. They play today against Charlotte, so that could eliminate the Charlotte Hornets. Then they have Memphis and the Knicks, and so they have 3 games remaining. And as for Orlando, they have 2. They play in Boston and then in Charlotte, so that might be a tough test there. And Brooklyn plays Indiana in Indiana today, and then they play Miami at home in their final game. So Orlando's got 3 left. Detroit has 3 left. Orlando and Brooklyn have 2 left, and this could be quite interesting down the stretch. But for the Toronto Raptors, you want to look up that 2nd seed in the entire NBA. You've already looked up the 2nd seed. You've already done all that stuff in the Eastern Conference. But for the Raptors' sake, you want that, 2nd seed. Because if you were to face the Golden State Warriors in the finals, which we all expect they're going to get that far, you want home court. You want any advantage you can possibly have. And for the Raptors, I think that's the case. You want that home court, all right? So, you know what, guys? That is going to do it for this one. You guys enjoyed this video, and you guys enjoyed the victory today in the last game of the season, or last home game of the season for the Toronto Raptors. By the way, Dwayne Wade, tip of the cap, great salute by the Toronto Raptors and all that for his entire career. He has been an incredible player. How did he do? I think he had an all-right game there today. Where is he here? He had 21 points on 7 of 14 shooting, 4 of 6 from 3. Dwayne Wade just an all-around stud. He's a fantastic player, and if they don't make the playoffs, it's going to suck because Dwayne Wade deserves that one little playoff run, even though he's going to probably be facing Milwaukee or Toronto, and it's not going to go too well for his team. But for the Raptors, you got the win. It was an overtime. It took a hard-fought comeback victory, even though it wasn't a big comeback. It was 13 in the second quarter, but they slowly got it back and then got the victory in overtime, all right? So, guys, thank you guys so much for listening, and hit that like button if you guys enjoyed this one. Hit the subscribe button if you guys have not already. Comment down below what you think of the game. Who is your MVP from today's game? Would you give it to Norman Powell, who was extremely efficient today and had 23 points? Would you give it to Pascal Siakam, who was insanely efficient and had a double-double of 23 and 10? Would you give it to Danny Green, who had 21 and still shoots the ball at a stupid rate? What did he actually do today? 7 of 13 shooting, 5 of 9 from 3, and he had 2 blocks and was a plus 18 on the floor. Danny Green is an absolute freak of nature. How many minutes did he play? He played 35. So the starters had heavy minutes today. Lowry played 42. I understand why you needed to have that in overtime. I get that. But in this last game against Minnesota, depending on how the implications work with Golden State, I think the Raptors should be very careful about how many minutes they play these guys. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on all that stuff. And Evan and I will talk to you guys podcast edition. It is going to be either Wednesday or Thursday. We're kind of leaning closer to Thursday podcast edition. Links are in the description for the podcast channel and for the podcast itself on iTunes. Twitter is also down below. Follow up, send me a DM. Do all that great stuff. And I will talk to you guys, Blue Jays edition, a little bit later on today as they're playing against the Cleveland Indians in the final game of that 4-game set against the Tribe. And it's a 3-1 game. I mean, the Jays score one in the 8th inning with Danny Jansen RBI single scoring McKinney. That was it. They're down 3-1 there in the bottom of the 8th inning as the Blue Jays look to mount to come back. But right now they've only got one run over 8 innings, which has been a reoccurring theme for this team. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. As for the Leafs, guys, we'll talk to you Monday night. Monday night. All right? And actually, tomorrow night even. That's basically Monday night. In the round 1 preview of the Leafs and Bruins, because on Thursday, game 1, it starts for the Toronto Raptors as they are in Boston taking on the Bruins at TD Gardens. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow night in the round 1 preview of the Leafs and Bruins. And as for the Raptors, guys, we'll talk to you Tuesday night in Minneapolis, Minnesota. 8 p.m. tip-off there in Minnesota in the final game of the regular season. Then we can get to what we have all been waiting for so long. The much-anticipated playoffs with Kawhi Leonard. We've talked about it since July, and we are ready to get it started. But first, we got to get through that game on Tuesday, 8 o'clock tip-off, like I said. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you guys then.